Well, today we're going to look at anger and what a wonderfully powerful tool it can be, and how it is unnecessarily pushed aside, misinterpreted, and often suppressed when it would be better to use it. And we're going to learn a little bit about how to better use it today. And if you can start to appreciate anger in the way that we are going to talk about in this video, I feel very confident it's going to make your life better. And you'll start to be able to feel better in general, because too many of us are scared to look at our anger, and that's a form of suppression that's not going to be healthy for most of us. So yeah, I'm excited to read the excerpt I'm going to be reading from today and talk about it a little bit. If you don't know who I am, my name's Tim. I've written multiple books about spirituality, stress management, and working with our thinking and our emotions. It's what I like to do, both in written form and helping clients work through emotions, working through their overthinking, so they come to a point where they realize that there is nothing inherently wrong with them and that they are okay as they are. And when we do that, we tend to manifest a better life, manifest better things in our life. But it starts from within. And that's what we like to focus on in this channel. So, yeah, anger is just the kind of emotion that people really don't feel comfortable addressing a lot of the time fully. I think a lot of us, especially in kind of like the new age manifesting law of assumption, law of attraction space, feel like anger's a problem. And, I've been saying in a couple of recent videos, there are very few prominent law of attraction type of teachers that discuss anger with any type of real emotional intelligence, in my opinion. The person I've mentioned a couple times, I'll put a link to a podcast episode I did a few years ago about his approach, someone who does discuss anger appropriately and give it the importance that it deserves, is Maxwell Maltz, the author of Psycho-Cybernetics. So yeah, I would check out that podcast episode if you're interested in seeing a truly great law of attraction type of teacher discuss anger intelligently, because it's so rare. Another good teacher that I forgot to mention, but we've spoken about a lot, a commenter brought it to my attention, of course, is David Hawkins, the author of Letting Go. Unsurprising, because David Hawkins was basically was a therapist and I believe psychiatrist, but a mental health practitioner, doctor for like 50 years. So it's not surprising that he discusses anger intelligently. And how it can be utilized, how it can turn from this foe or this thing we're terrified of to something that actually is a productive tool. And not just a productive tool for us, but a productive tool for people in our lives in general, right? But yeah, there really are not many good examples that I can think of, at least in the LOA space, that with any type of consistency say, listen, anger is not a bad thing. And we need other reference points besides just LOA teachers when it comes to this subject, in my opinion. A great reference point, one of my favorite reference points when it comes to emotions in general, is Robert Augustus Masters, who is a therapist and also a wonderful writer of many books, including Spiritual Bypassing. I'll put a link above to a podcast episode we did about that book. Spiritual Bypassing is, I don't want to say a must read, but for people who are into this, law of assumption, law of attraction online community space, it almost is a must read, because he calls bullshit on so much stuff that we see in this community, and he describes it really well. This other book by Robert Augustus Masters, I like even more than Spiritual Bypassing, Emotional Intimacy. Masterpiece. Just discussing becoming more intimate with our emotions. And the chapter on anger is definitely worth reading. And we're going to read just a small portion of it today. And I hope it's going to make you see a little bit, at least, that like your anger is not the boogeyman it's made out to be. So without further ado, let me open up to the chapter simply titled Anger and read a little bit of what Masters says here. Really good stuff. He says, there is an abundance of confusion about anger. confusion about what it is, about its value or lack thereof, about whether or not to express it and how, about its function and relationship. Anger can be a loaded or inflammatory topic that's likely to irritate, irk, rile, piss off, frustrate, annoy, and even infuriate more than a few of us. And as ubiquitous as anger is, it still remains largely unexplored. Anger probably gets more bad press than any other emotion. It is one of Christianity's 7 deadly sins, one of Buddhism's key hindrances, categorized as an unwholesome or afflictive state synonymous with ill will and aggression, a core New Age no-no because it's quote-unquote negative. More often than not, anger takes the heat for causing ugly behavior of the aggressive or violent sort. It's easy to blame anger. I don't know what got into me. For what might seem like or actually be irresponsible or mean-spirited behavior. But holding anger accountable for our violence is akin to holding our sex drive accountable for rape. It is true that when anger, quote-unquote, possesses us, we are more likely to indulge in ill will and violence. And even when we can counteract such inflammatory occupying forces, we may be doing no more than curbing the beast, which requires us to remain on guard against anger breakouts. But there's much more to effectively handling anger than muzzling, muting, or playing zookeeper to it. Some say that to hold anger in, to wait until we are calm before we say anything about it, is unhealthy, increasing our odds of getting ill, including to the point of having cancer. Others say that to let anger out, to openly express or vent it, is unhealthy, increasing our odds of getting heart disease. So we have 2 warring camps. One, anger in, focused on the dangers of expressed anger. The other, anger out, focused on the dangers of unexpressed anger. Both make moral real estate out of their positions. Who is right? The answer is both, but only partially. There are plenty of problems with anger in and plenty of problems with anger out, as we shall see. There are more ways to approach and work with anger than anger in and anger out. We can, for example, mindfully attend to our anger, neither repressing nor indulging it, letting it be the object of meditative focus without any outward expression of it. We can also be mindfully present with our anger and still outwardly and fierily express it, letting such expression coexist with a significant degree of compassion. Once we are angry, the raw feeling that almost always instantaneously arises, we may feel that we cannot help but be swept along by it, but we nonetheless do have options for handling it. Later on, Masters writes, whether we stuff our anger, cut loose with it, sit meditatively with it, or express it with both fieriness and care, we are doing something with it. It is common to confuse what we do with anger itself. Hostility, aggression, hatred, violence, ill will, sarcasm, mean-spiritedness, these are choices, avenues we steer our anger into, even though we may feel as though we are being driven to do so. Such choices give anger a bad name. Working skillfully with anger is just as hard as working skillfully with fear, but it is essential if we are to live truly healthy lives and have thriving relationships. Our task is not to cease having anger, but to develop the capacity for clean anger that is free of shaming, blaming, and aggression. Such anger is simultaneously vulnerable and powerful. So that's a brief excerpt from the chapter on anger in Emotional Intimacy by Robert Augustus Masters. What he is getting at is that there is such power in being angry sometimes, and that denying that your anger exists, denying the presence of your anger, is usually being delusional. Most of us get angry sometimes. The problem, Masters argues, and I would argue, is that the majority of us, when we get angry, don't know how to deal with it. We don't have the mindfulness to realize that in and of itself, there's actually nothing wrong with this energy, with this anger, this emotion, this anger. And you can do some of the things that Masters talks about, whether it's being very mindful and, letting it just pass without expressing it, or being very mindful and expressing it fully. I've spoken about, both those type of approaches on this channel. And I have to tell you, just so many people, especially in the LOA space, get this totally wrong. I've, for good and bad, and now I will say mainly for good, have always been the type of person that has utilized anger. There's been plenty of times where I used to feel guilty about that, but I dropped that guilt a long time ago, over a decade ago, when I began to realize more fully that this is such a potent energy if you know how to move it. And as Master says, it's scary because it can get seemingly out of control quickly. But at the same time, I'm telling you, you can ride that wave. And, I can just tell you, with people I'm close to, I am capable of raising my voice and having a conversation that's animated with some anger, because the person I'm talking to usually can tell there is love and compassion there. And I can also tell you that most people cannot do that. And a big reason why is because they've never really tried or practiced that. But if you can do that, that makes it so your relationships have so much more, again, vulnerability, or like you're open enough to say, I'm angry with you and I love you. The vulnerability and power, as Masters referenced. And even more so, especially if we are really into these kind of, manifesting concepts, and it's all about how you treat yourself. If you get more comfortable working with your anger and getting angry, not necessarily at other people and being explicit about it, and again, you will get angry at other people, but you don't necessarily have to verbalize your anger with other people. You don't have to be like I am. I'm quite good at that, but not everybody is, and you don't have to be good at that. You can be very, you can not express your anger in a very angry way with other people. But in the very least, something that I definitely encourage you to do, to start experimenting with and practice, is be okay getting angry at yourself sometimes. This is a huge game changer, guys. If you can learn to get angry at yourself and at the same time show yourself enough compassion to realize that you are doing it for a purpose, you are going to stir the pot. It's like alchemy. Like it makes it so when you turn your anger within sometimes, and it's fiery and it's full of passion, it's mental alchemy, because what was there before was this limited kind of like, oh, I can't do this, or I'm not supposed to do this. And the anger calls bullshit on that. It calls bullshit on basically the limiting belief that is holding us back. If you sometimes go, fuck you to yourself, fuck you, and mean it, because you're fucking angry at what's going on in your mind or your head, and you don't fucking understand. If you just say, fuck you, I'm fucking furious with you right now. If you do something like that, it can be a total game changer. Now, this is a difficult topic. People don't want to discuss it. But it's the kind of thing that is, for some of you, this could be maybe the most important thing you could do that changes your inner dialogue and your level of, self, I guess, openness with yourself, and also increases your vulnerability and ability to communicate with loved ones. Utilizes some of the stuff that Masters is talking about and that I'm discussing right now. If you need help, if you'd like a short free consultation to see if I can help you on this topic, I love helping people on this topic. I'll gladly speak with you for 15 or 20 minutes, just to get a sense of whether it's something that you want to work on more with me, and whether, you work with me or just work on it by yourself, or get a skilled therapist to work with it on you, to work on it, with you. It's something I really advocate pursuing. Below, I'm going to put another video that I did relatively recently talking about using anger as a great tool on yourself. I strongly recommend looking at that video as well if you have not already watched it. Until next time, be cool with your anger when it's there.